Recently, I visited Singapore on a bit of a research mission to gain a better understanding of the country for myself, but also for our clients, and I loved it. The impression I had in my mind just from having talks to people over the years about Singapore, it was a bit off the mark. I was expecting like an ultra modern, highly efficient, a bit of a soulless kind of city, but it wasn't that at all. All you have to do is walk the streets, pop into one of the old hawker centers, and you'll find out pretty quickly that this place is full of soul and full of character. In this video, I'm going to share some of my thoughts and impressions from my time in Singapore and why we think here at Offshore in Asia that Singapore can be one of the best places in Asia for your money, your business, and your investments. It's one of the major financial centers of the world. All the biggest banks have offices there. There's a real energy to the place. When you're walking around on the streets, you can feel it. It's tangible. All the money, all the power running through that joint. It's really quite an exciting place to be if you're a bit of a finance guy like I am. And I have to admit, it's probably the first time in quite a while that I've gone to a place and I felt, this is really cool, I would really love to live here. The only problem is rent is quite expensive there. Food is pretty reasonable. It's more expensive than Malaysia and Thailand, as you'd expect, more expensive than Indonesia, but quite a lot cheaper than places like Australia and the US. Beer is a little bit expensive, but it is quite livable apart from the rental situation. The good news is that there are ways that you can leverage Singapore's strengths without being a resident of the country itself. So on a broader level, some of the things that we love about Singapore, it is politically stable, it has low corruption, and it is known as being a country of high integrity. They take that very seriously. Being a former British colony, it has a legal system based on English common law, which will make a lot of Western expats comfortable. They do have very strict drug laws. That is one thing that is quite different to many legal systems in the West. English is widely spoken there. It's a very easy place to get around. They have a great metro system, and it is an outward-looking country. It's an international city-state. They are open to business. They're used to having foreigners there who work there in the big banks, in all kinds of industries, people from all around the world. It really is a big melting pot. Singapore has many things that are useful to a global expat. It can be a great place to keep your money. They are pro-money and they are pro-wealth. They want people to bring their money in and invest it and keep it in Singapore. So it can be a really good place to set up a bank account there. The Singapore dollar is a little bit stronger than the Aussie dollar, a bit weaker than the US dollar, but it is relatively stable. It's a good currency for doing business in the region. It can be a great place to invest. If you set up a brokerage account in Singapore, you will get direct access to not only the Singapore Stock Exchange, but also stock exchanges in the region, in China, in Thailand, in Malaysia. You can get the kind of access to Asian markets here that can be quite difficult to get through brokerages around the world, through New York, Australia, London, and so forth. A lot of the Asian-based ETFs that are available on the New York Stock Exchange or the ASX just will not give you the kind of access that you can get into Asia by going directly through Singapore. In the last few years, Singapore has gained a reputation for becoming one of the major family office hubs in the world, especially in Asia. Ray Dalio set up an office here. Sergey Brin from Google set up an office here. A lot of the smart money is moving into Singapore. There's no doubt about that. Singapore is very pro-business. It can be a great place to incorporate, and it's not too expensive to get set up here. It has a corporate tax rate that is very reasonable at 17%, and there are exemptions when you're stepping up into that. There's a marginal step-up rate. There's also exemptions if you're starting off as a new company in Singapore. But 17% still is a lot lower than many countries in the West. So you get a pretty attractive tax rate there, but you also get to operate in a respected business jurisdiction. And it is possible to reduce your tax rate even further by setting up other companies in Asia in places like Labuan that would work in tandem with the Singapore company. There are other quite generous tax policies that will attract individuals to moving their money out here. Singapore doesn't tax dividends. They have a single tier taxation policy on corporate profits. So the company pays tax at the corporate level, then all dividends are tax-free in the hands of the shareholders. They also don't tax capital gains, so that'll be very attractive to a lot of people who buy and sell shares or maybe even crypto investors. And if you're into precious metals, Singapore has some of the best high-tech vaults in the world for private metal storage. I visited a couple of them and I was quite impressed. If you want somewhere to store your metals offshore in a country that is welcoming, in a country that has strong privacy laws, Singapore can be a great place for storing your gold and your silver. So all of this stuff sounds pretty good, but the fact of the matter is that Singapore won't be for everyone, because depending on what kind of investments or what you're trying to do out here, it can have a relatively high entry point in that it is more designed for people who have some wealth. You don't have to be rich, but it can be hard to come out here and get established if you don't have much to invest. That said, if you're more interested in private vault storage, you can get started doing that with relatively little. Singapore can be a pivotal part of your asset protection strategy. They know that being attractive to the outside world is very important to the future and the well-being of their country. Singapore doesn't have many industries. It's a tiny island. It has very little resources. They have a bit of a shipping industry, but the finance industry is really what made them what they are today. It would be a very different place if they didn't open up financially and welcome foreign capital into their country. It is worth a lot of money to them and they want to keep that going. So Singapore is a place that I personally would be quite comfortable parking a sum of money in. You'd have to make your own determination on that, whether you're comfortable doing that. But if you want to move money offshore, if you want to set up an international lifestyle, and if you want to have a presence in Asia, Singapore can be a very important part of that. So if you're interested in setting up a bank account in Singapore, trust me, it is not that easy to do. I spent several days going to many banks, getting many rejections, but finally found a contact, figured out a way to get it legitimately done. It can be done. It's not that easy for a non-resident, but it can be done. That's the main thing. So if you want help doing that, we can help put you in touch with the right people. Same goes for brokerage accounts. It is not that easy to do as a non-resident, but it can be done. And we have contacts in the country that can help you to get that done and let you know what you have to do it legitimately. If you want to set up a company in Singapore, if you're doing business in Asia, if you've left your home country and you want a good, strong Asian-based company to do business out of a respected country that won't have issues with banking and so forth, Singapore can be great for that. We can help you to set that up. And lastly, if you're interested in private storage for gold and silver bullion in some of the best, most private establishments in the world, some of the safest vaults in the world, we can point you in the right direction for that as well. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you are interested in Singapore, get in touch with us at offshoreinasia.com. It really is an exciting place if you are into business, investments, and so forth. I encourage you to go there and check it out for yourself. And if you do want any help getting set up in Singapore, or if you just want to have a chat to us regarding how things operate there, we're happy to help where we can.